Today's tutorial topic is data selection. This is mostly important for automation, so either when you start working with workflows or just when you want to repeat an action for multiple tables. We have already come across this in previous videos. For example, when you edit plot traces, you can choose the X and Y data, and you can also choose how the data is selected. So here it's selected by index, but there's also select by name, quantity, etc. So in this video, we will go through exactly what this means and when you need to consider how your data should be selected. In this plot, the potential is the x-axis data, and this is the fourth data series in the table, while the y-data is the current, which is the fifth data series in the table. And every time we open this plot, it will take the data in the fourth and fifth data series to plot. And this is what it means that we have chosen select by index here. The data series will be selected based on the index in the table. If we instead choose name, it will look for the data series with that exact name. So when is this important? Well, for example, when we drag tables to plots to add traces to that plot, it will make a copy of the last trace in the plot with the new table as the source data. So here, when we select by index, if I try to drag another table which doesn't have the same format, here the potential is the first data series and the current is the second, and we don't even have a fourth and fifth data series in this table. So if I try to drag this to the plot, I will get an error because I cannot select those data series for another trace. However, if I go in and choose to select by name instead, of course the plot will look exactly the same as before, but now if I drag this table, it will just add the new one because it's selecting these two data series by the name instead. We might have another case where we have some other structure of the table and we don't have the exact same names. Here the potential and current are called E over V and I over A. So again, if I drag this to the plot, it will not be able to plot it. But I can go in and choose select by quantity instead. Again, the plot will look exactly the same, but if I drag this third table, it will now be able to add it because it selects the potential and current data series to add as the new plot trace. So as you have seen, if you have the same structure for all your tables, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. But if you want to combine data from several different sources, it might make it easier to consider how you should select your data from each table. It's important to note that selecting by index and selecting by name always gives you a particular unique data series because there is only one data series with a particular index or name in a table. However, selecting by quantity or by electrode is not necessarily unique because several different data series can have the same quantity and electrode in a table. And if you have many data series in a table with the same quantities, you might not get consistent results if you choose to select by quantity and or electrode. As another example, I will select all the tables and choose Applications, CV and Plot CV. This will plot all of the CVs, and I didn't have to select the individual data series, and it seems to have been able to select the potential and current correctly. So how does this work? Well, in fact, all of these are selected by quantity, so as long as you have only one potential and current data series in each table, this will work correctly. As you've seen in the previous tutorial videos, the option to choose how the data is selected is available in almost all of the functions in Edelweiss. For example, if I want to filter out a specific scan, and maybe I select several tables to perform it for multiple tables, and I go to filter data, here I have the select by, and I can choose how the data that specifies the filter should be selected. And here, since, as we've seen, all of the tables have a different format, the select by index won't work. So I should choose select by quantity here, scan equals 1, choose yes to repeat it for multiple tables, and now I get my filtered tables, and it was able to filter based on scan number even though the format of all the tables were different, but they all had the cycle quantity. Finally, there are some cases that might lead to confusion when it comes to data selection. So for that, let's create one plot here of this CV. And this is of course selected by index per default, so let's call it index. And for this table, let's plot the same thing, but now we choose to select the data series by name instead. And we call it name. And now we have more or less the same plot, but they will behave differently once we start to change things about the table. So for both of these tables, let's normalize the current by some value. So I will divide by the area here. And I will replace the A data series. Choose yes to do it for both. And now for both tables, we get a new data series with a normalized current. And for the index plot, this looks the same because it's selecting the new normalized current by the index. So it's taking the new data, which has the same index in the table as before. However, for the one selecting by name, it doesn't plot anything because now there is no data series in this table with the old name because this normalized data series has changed its name. So to make the select by name work, we need to edit it and choose the correct name here again. And then it will plot as before. Another case might be if you want to do some other math on these tables, for example, reset the time. So here I can go to another function called reset data series. This will remove the initial value and add a constant c. Here I could then write 0 to have both data series start at 0, or actually if I leave it blank it will default to 0, so I don't have to put anything. But I do have to choose select by quantity for the same reason as before. And here I choose to create a new data series after series A. So choose OK and yes to do it for both. And now I have a new data series inserted here with the reset time for both of them. And we can see that it correctly selected both time data series even though they were at different places in the table, since we choose to select by quantity and not by index. And if we now look at the plot selected by name, we can see that this still works as before, because we still have the data series with the same name, so nothing has really changed. But if we look at the plot selected by index, now there is something weird going on here. We are plotting the potential versus the cycle instead. And this is of course because it is looking for the data series at a specific index, and now since we have inserted one more data series here, the scan is in the 4th place and the potential in the 5th place instead of the potential and current as it was before. So here you might want to select by name instead. As you will see in some future videos about workflows and applications, the choice of how to select data series in those cases also becomes important, but I hope now that you have a deeper understanding of how the select by function works and when you should pay attention to it.